Anyway, that's a good way to start the episode. Episode
Episode number 5.
of the Paddy and the
5.
Pomee podcast. So I fucking actually, normally I have, I'm kind of behind on the podcast and stuff like that, and I'm like stressed, and I'm like, fuck, I got to do another one. I've been looking forward to this one all week because we've quite a few bits to talk about, and it's mostly the Paul brothers, which I actually don't mind talking about this week. No, that's a lie. It's not mostly the Paul brothers. Sorry, we're talking about the boxing heavyweights as well.
The fiasco, the chaos,
wow,
whatever you call it.
I'll tip it over to you, you're the boxing correspondent. That's what I started to call you. So what do you think?
I don't know.
What do you think with the heavyweight division?
I don't know because I'm fucking pissed off about it. But what can you do? I've heard so many different solutions to what should have been done, and the best one I actually heard was just Joshua and Fury, because he had it was like mid-September he had to fight Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst one I heard was just fight Joshua in August, and then let's say he wins, right? He just scraps the WC belt, just scraps it, drops it straight away. So he has become unified, but then a week later he drops it, and then Wilder can fight Dillian White for that belt, and then the winner of that gets the winner of Joshua Fury. But it's never going to work like that, is it? It's just
that's too many things moving at the same time in boxing, like in that sense.
But it's the same now that Joshua's going to fight Usyk, or vacate the belt, and then it's 2 dangerous fights for both. So
man, you know what I meant to say to you as well. This is not kind of an off topic, but I made a major fuck up last week. This is why I don't talk about boxing. I don't know, did you watch I think it was last week, the podcast I did. It was only a small fight card, but I said I'll talk a little bit about the heavyweight boxing. And what did I say? That fucking Joshua's fighting Povetkin.
Oh, you too.
And I had to go back afterwards, and I literally had to write underneath, "No, you fucking idiot. It's Usyk." So that's why I don't talk about boxing. That's why I wait.
Just as well. Just as well.
It's hard enough to keep up with the MMA.
I'm pretty sure Joshua will beat Usyk. I'm pretty sure he will, but it's not. I think he'd have to knock him out, because I don't think he can outbox him unless he keeps it like very long.
Is there a date set for that fight too?
I think it's August. It is in August at some point. Whether he'll just take over from Fury in Saudi Arabia, maybe.
Yeah, you'd imagine, but they're like, I mean, that's not going to have half as much interest. Do you know what though? I was saying this to you whenever we were talking the last day about I'm not getting super pumped for the fight, but I'm a little bit more excited when you hear Wilder talking and stuff like that, because he's talking about like he's angry, he wants to take Fury's head off, and makes you a little bit excited. But obviously at the same time, we still lost a great fight, like the fight.
It does. I think Wilder's been daft, because it looks like he has made a little bit of improvement, like from what I've seen. But anybody can look half decent on the pads, but also, if he has improved, I would have just kept it a massive secret, and I wouldn't have even revealed anything.
Yeah,
and then gone in and maybe surprised it. But he's literally just showing all the.
There's one thing I didn't like, and I'm glad I remember this, so I wanted to say it to you on the podcast. Now again, this is really like going through with a fine tooth comb, They were showing some of his pad work, and the guy holding the pads. Now I know he's powerful, but I felt like he was selling the power an awful lot. He was holding. He kept like
jumping back.
Yeah, he kept letting his arm like go behind him. And look, I know he's that powerful, but you don't need to sell it. Like obviously I'm an MMA fan, like halfway boxing. I know how powerful he is. You don't need to be on the pads trying to sell it to me, It's just it irritated me a little bit. But again, that's picking at it, and of course pad work, that is what they do anyway. They make you look good. That's usually what the guys put out on TV, is the good pad sessions,
Yeah, do you know who was the fella? What was your fella who you recommended for me to listen to?
Danaher.
On Rogan.
John Danaher.
John Danaher. Have you listened to it yet?
Not that episode, no, but I fucking should have listened to it, but I'm just again trying to keep up with
Did
all the other shit.
he says? Did you know the pads only came out? Like pad work in boxing only started in like the 1980s, late 1980s.
Fuck, is it that late?
Something ridiculous like that. Like apparently Julio Cesar Chavez can't do pad work. Like he just can't do it. And this is one of the greatest boxers of all time. And
I, yeah,
he can't do pads and he can't do the speed bag. One of the a man who went on an 89-0 run and
that is hilarious.
and it make and it makes you think, is it even relevant, or is it just a little thing to just show off a bit of skill before the fight?
I tell you what it is. It's very satisfying to do. Like I'm sure you've hit pads in the past yourself. Like
Yeah,
it's very nice
yeah,
to do
yeah.
it, but it's not the same as when like I've hit pads and my rhythm has been fucking unbelievable. Like I'm throwing 6, 7 punch combinations, which is great for me. But then as soon as you go to sparring, man, it's totally different. You're like, why this
Yeah.
guy is peppering your face, and you're like, why is he hitting me so quick? And it's just not the same. I'd imagine it's all the same with the bag. It's rhythm. It's just rhythm.
Yeah.
Like
I who
You
was
see Floyd on the speed bag, and it's like it's hypnotizing the way he does his shit, and or like a Ryan Garcia, the way they do it so fast, Lomachenko, these guys. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is all just rhythm. It's just your rhythm, your
who's
timing.
ever I was gonna say who's ever thrown a punch like they do on a speed bag?
Yeah,
It's kind of irrelevant, really. But
exactly. Yeah.
um no, I'd like to see. I'd be interested to see Wilder do a bit of sparring with this new footwork and hand speed and all that. But we'll see. I can't see anything more than a Fury win. But the fact he's only really got 7 weeks to properly prepare for it is slightly concerning.
Yeah, you
But
wonder, like, again, sometimes it's beware the wounded beast. Maybe Wilder has maybe all this frustration. Now he's always been that kind of fighter, really. He's always been an angry kind of I'm going to take your head off kind of guy. But you just never know, and he still did in the first fight. Pretty much, he flatlined Fury. Like it's just the fact that Fury is a different fucking breed that he managed to get up from that. But he was still flatlined, and that power
he
will always
did.
carry. That will carry.
He did, but you gotta remember Fury had lost like what, 100 pounds,
Yeah,
140 pound in weight.
exactly, exactly.
Like he was in a ketosis state for like 8 months or something like that.
And,
So
and and by right before that fight or in any other sport, Fury didn't really have any right to be in there with Wilder. If you think about it, for how long he was out for, like what you're just after saying, he didn't really have any right to be in there. So
no, and Wilder only took that fight because he thought if I'm ever gonna get him, it's now,
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
pretty much.
And I mean, I don't care who you are. Actually, I'd say this for both sides. Like Fury, I'm sure is always going to be thinking that I can do whatever I want to this guy, but he's always going to have that power. But then it's even worse for Wilder to say that I have put everybody to sleep with this. I've even put him to sleep, but he's still got fucking back up. So what do I have to do to finish him?
And
That's
he got back up at his weakest.
yeah. And
So
went on to win the round, which is actually the craziest fucking part.
yeah, I think with you say he's angry, but I think it's just going to end up a bit like McGregor and Aldo. I think he's going to just get under his skin even more, and he's just going to go and he's going to get lamped, one or the other.
That's the thing, because that's the other side is like I was saying to you, I was reading some of his quotes and I said, fuck, here we go. But I mean, it isn't really a new side of Wilder. Wilder's always been that way. Like the angry kind of, you have the different type of fighters. He is that angry, I'm gonna fucking decapitate you kind of guy. So, and Fury is gonna just be a little bit of fuel here or there, keep adding the fuel until, Wilder's game plan and everything completely goes out the window. That's the other side of it as well. I
You
mean,
know,
realistically, you have to see a Fury win. Yeah, you just never know.
I just don't see what because he's not. It's not like he's had a fight to like even fine tune this new skills, if you want, whatever. So I just don't. And you're going in against a fella who pretty much dismantled you.
Yeah,
Like I just don't really see I would have just taken the 10 million pay cut and just I'd have had maybe like a nice little easy warm-up fight or something
yeah.
and then you got the winner. Like it's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, you would wonder why, because I would imagine for anybody, a little more time would have suited him best. So you'd wonder, but maybe he sees something. What he sees, I'm not sure. Um, or maybe it's to stay relevant as well, which is fair too.
But the thing is, if he loses this fight, which I'm sure well, I'm 90% confident he's going to lose anyway. He is going to. Eddie Hearn and Aaron will never give him a chance again because he's completely fucked it up for them.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Eddie Hearn especially, like with what Wilder did to Dillian White, like shut him out for like 3 years. Like he'll never let him give a chance against Joshua now, ever.
No, and you have the obviously fans. You know, I mean, a lot of fans have, like, even me. Me and you, when we were first talking about boxing, I was always a Wilder fan. I always liked his character, but I have not liked the way he has acted since the loss. So he's a lot. There's a lot against him for this fight. So I mean,
Yes,
you'd
I mean,
wonder.
like
Yeah,
he's.
you'd wonder where the decision came from, but
I would have just taken. I'd
Sorry,
have taken. I'd have taken. What was it? They said they offered 20 million. Like I would just pay it. Like it's tuppence to what the fight's going to be.
Exactly.
It's absolutely enough. And
but I mean,
yeah,
again, maybe he sees something, but I don't. I mean, he joined boxing very late, and the reason he climbed up so quick was because he had that insane power. So I mean, what are they going to teach him? I mean, what age is he? Is he mid-30s,
he's
late
35.
30s? Yeah,
35.
So there's not a lot you're going to learn. Like, obviously, he can learn plenty, but I mean, if he's a guy who
the only thing I'd say he hasn't got much miles on the clock because he's just literally KO'd everyone bar Fury. Like literally just put everybody to sleep, not taking much damage.
That is
so
true
that's the
too,
only.
yeah. But you wonder, like again, it's like that crazy power that he possesses, and that unpredictability and the unorthodox way he fights. That's pretty much what has won him fights.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
What do they change? Do they give him all this new footwork that he's got to work on? And I mean, you're going against fucking Tyson Fury. He's seen it all before.
He doesn't have a jab. Like he's fucking his arms are like long as anything. He's explosive. Like if he worked on his jab, he would be just his jab alone, he'd be very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like his arm, like his arm length with Fury must be near enough the same, maybe an inch in it or so. But I'd say he's more explosive anyway than Fury.
Because like when he fires that straight right, like down the pipe, it's fucking horrible power. Like, so if he learned to do the same with his jab, you know, a solid straight, it'd be. But again, you wonder, like, is it at his age and stuff? But it is true what you say as well. Not a lot of miles on the clock, so it's like when they say, you know, trying to, you know, add to an already full cup. But you got to wonder how full is his cup. You know, he hasn't really got any technique as it is, so maybe adding technique isn't going to fuck him up too much either.
No, I don't. I just think he can't get any worse because he was he was physically bullied by Fury. I think he'll cut down on weight because he was at his heaviest, like 240 pounds against Fury the last time, and it really slowed him down. So I think he'll cut down. Like he's normally like 215, something daft like that, and he's still 250, yeah, something daft like that. But Fury's going to be what, 270, 280?
Yeah,
easily. That is a massive difference. That's like a super heavyweight fighting a cruiserweight near enough.
Yeah, you're talking like that's however many different fucking weight classes. Yeah, it'll be interesting, but it is kind of, I don't want to say it's a shambles, but it's close enough to a shambles with the way things have played out. And you like, there is that fear now of something going wrong somewhere, and even if nothing goes wrong, it's another big long wait, and then there's going to be the same thing over again, like with, you know, the delays and the arguing over who gets what, and it's going to be the same shit. But
well, like as long as it's not another Andy Ruiz moment, that's all that matters. Because I tell you, I said to you that he offered to fight him for the trilogy, didn't he?
Yeah.
And if I was Eddie Hearn, I'd be saying, "Fuck off! Like, you're not going anywhere near it.
You fuck off. We don't ever want to see you again." But I mean,
No,
I'm sure, to be fair, I'm sure AJ has well learned from that fight, but I think he's another kind of a John Jones where if it's not exciting him, he doesn't take it as serious. Like he trains hard and all that, but I think it doesn't get him
yeah.
as up for the fight. That's the opinion I get from Joshua, and that's why I think he lost. Part of why he lost to Ruiz that time could be a case here
Mm.
again. You know, not having the interest, but at the same time, I'm sure he has learned not to allow that to happen again.
Because when he fought Rui, he was meant to be fighting Jarrell Miller, and it was like proper heated between them. Like he said it was the only one of the only two that had ever got under his skin.
Yeah,
And imagine going from that to the nicest lap bloke in the world.
yeah,
Like you probably couldn't get up for it, really. So you
that's it.
probably
Like
think,
that's. I'd imagine, like fucking fighting is hard enough without fighting some guy who's fucking super nice and just trying to find something bad about him and trying to take his head off his shoulders is not easy. And then, on the other hand, as nice as he is, he's going to take your fucking head off his shoulders pretty easy.
yeah, I wouldn't want to go near Ruiz. Like, yeah, if he gets like a good win under his belt next, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near him because he's dangerous. He's dangerous. Like he is. I think he's a quality fighter, to be honest.
Yeah, I become again not a huge in-depth boxing fan, but I just like there's so much to like about Ruiz because I think no matter what he does, he's always going to be the underdog. He's that guy who will always be the underdog, but people
Yeah,
will always want him to win. Whether he'll get to the heights of the other boys, don't know. But I think at the very least, he's going to be that motherfucker we don't want. You don't want Ruiz. You don't want to go near him. You want to avoid him at all costs. And
no,
he'd probably have an issue
no,
getting fights.
no. Well, I think because like Dillian White wants to fight him, and I'd stay away from him. I
Yeah.
think he'd beat White because White would go toe to toe with him, and I don't think he could beat him toe to toe. I think
Yeah.
Ruiz would, but I would like to see Ruiz. Funnily enough, I'd like to see him put a bit of weight back on, like just 10 pounds,
Yeah.
because he he did look a little. I don't think he needs. I said this to you. He may have been 300 pounds against Joshua, but he still did 12 rounds quite
Yeah.
comfortably. So he's still. I don't think he needs to lose the weight. It's just as long as he's fit.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I think people forget that. Like, I know when he went into the AJ rematch, it wasn't about how big he looked. It was that he was unfit. There's a difference. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how the body looks because, like, I mean, if you look at an example I can think of is Cain Velasquez in the UFC, who was a heavyweight, and people could not understand how he was a heavyweight and had the cardio he did. He shocked the entire division because he went in there with this insane cardio, and heavyweights didn't know what to do with it because they were like,
yeah,
this is the fucking third round. How are you still doing this? And he just pushed and pushed, and it was all because well, first off, he's got that Mexican blood in him, which always helps, and he trained at like high altitude, or something like that.
yeah.
It was just pushing insane pace constantly. So it's not even about the body. It's like you said, it's whether he's fit in that body.
I wouldn't. I would say to Ruiz, maybe put a few pounds back on and just keep your just keep your power and keep your chin, and you'll be. As
Yeah.
long as he's fit, he doesn't. It doesn't matter. As long
Yeah.
as he's fit, like
Put it
and
put it on put it on with the chicken, not the fucking Mars bars, that kind of way.
something like that. Yeah. But he does look lean. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
He does look lean.
I
Like
think he's still trying to figure out, you know, where
his ideal weight.
where he feels at his best. And maybe it's a case of like what you said, don't worry about the actual body fat, just worry about keeping your fucking cardio up. And I suppose he got a lot of shit after that AJ rematch, rightfully so, because he said himself he didn't take it serious, which is fair
No, I
enough. Like, but
didn't.
at least sometimes that's good to happen. It's good to happen. These guys, they learn from a loss and they come back fucking even better. So, but I do think
If you
he's sorry.
if you're training with Canelo, you can't. You'd be a weird person if you couldn't get motivated
Yeah,
working with him.
exactly.
Like, I think he'll cause one or two more upsets. Like, Joseph Parker's promoter, David Higgins.
No, no, I don't.
He's Kiwi fat, and we met him in headquarters one night, and was just
Oh, I
genuine, just
think you were telling me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he said, I think Ruiz is the worst style for Wilder of anyone in the heavyweight division. He said he'd snap him in half in the body. Like he said, he's a terrible, terrible style.
Yeah.
And he said any tool fighter, like only Fury, he says, I think he could never beat because Fury's just he's a he's just a freak, really, and he just takes shot. Like I've always said, it's not necessarily he's got the it's not like he doesn't go down. He just recovers from
Yeah.
everything.
And Fury has, like, if Fury has a backup. He has a B and a C plan, you know. But I can
Yeah,
just as you're saying that, I can picture, you know, Ruiz doing that, like chasing Wilder down, you know, ducking the head under his shots and just getting into his body. You can picture it happening, and Wilder won't
yeah.
have. He will not have an answer for that. You can see
And
it,
you've seen
and
what happens when Wilder's forced back.
yeah,
Like, like,
and
like
like
Fury. Like,
sorry,
no,
go
go
on.
on, carry on.
I was going to say he'll
No, carry on.
probably take whether he'll take Wilder's best shot, I don't know, because not many can. Like, but he'll
I
take
think
some
he
of his
would.
shots. Yeah, he will definitely take some
If
of his
he's
shots.
if he's got a tight guard, like he took some of AJ's shots, best shots,
Mm.
like very well. Like, and I know Wilder's a more explosive, but if he had a good tight defense, I think he would be bobbing and weaving. I think he'd be fine, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Wilder is like, I know again, I even I go on about his power. It is his power, but it's also the way he's unorthodox too. Like people, like I mean, AJ and Fury, these guys are powerful too. Like, you know, in particular, AJ is fucking powerful. People kind of
Yeah,
forget
he
that. Like, I
is.
mean, he's up there with the same power as Wilder. The difference is he's got the normal technique, whereas Wilder's got this unpredictability. So those shots that you can't predict are the ones that are fucking flatlining people.
Yeah, pretty much. AJ, see, I think AJ is more chance putting Fury down is only because he'll put six punches together in a flash.
Yeah,
Wilder can maybe do what? A jab, a straight right, and a left hook, and that's pretty much it.
yeah. If you
And
dodge that one power shot, the next one is not going to be, you know.
no, well, if you go back to Fury and Wilder's first fight, you see how many times Fury did that, miss that, like avoided that combination. It was literally, like I say, a lunging with the jab, right hook, and then just a left hook would have knocked out a fucking wild animal.
And
And
it's always
and yeah,
it's always sapping his energy. You got like everything Wilder throws, like it's eating at the energy bar all the time, you know, because it's full on power. Like he's trying to, like, you know, clothesline you to cut your fucking body in half. Like, so once you get him to
oh mate,
miss, that is what, and
I'm
you
I'm
can see that
surprised
with
he's ne
Ruiz. Sorry, go on.
I'm surprised he's never taken someone's head off, like off their actual fucking neck.
That one, but when he hit Ortiz, I mean, fucking hell. I've always tried to find someone. I know it was just a knockout, but to see them hit him on the top of the fucking head, you never see that. And to see
Mm.
his whole, like, he fucking went like a turtle, like his head fucking pushed into his body, like, you know, it's just sickening, like cartoon power, like, you know.
He knocked out Arthur Spilker. You should go back and look at that. Like he was seizure, like having a seizure on the ground after he hit him that hard.
Fucking hell. And actually,
So
it's actually one of my favorite knockouts is the guy he had I can never remember his name. He had the rematch with.
still Vern.
It's the one where Wilder drops his hands and just walks towards him like a fucking, I don't know what he's like.
Gladiator.
It's like something out of
I
300. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, and he just walks towards him, winging punches. It's insane.
you'd be pretty intimidated seeing
That's a
that come
fucking
towards you.
sure. It's
Yeah.
because again,
But
it's scary because I'm sure people are thinking like, who is this guy? Like, you know, hasn't even been boxing for that long, and then you're watching him flatline these fucking, you know, seasoned fighters. Like, it is scary no matter what way you look at it. You can't. That power
maybe
is.
so. But still Vern, like he didn't fight anybody of any relevance up until what? His 38th fight, maybe something like that. 39th.
Yeah. See. That's the background knowledge I don't know. But
Yeah.
still, he still fucked him up. It's
Oh,
just
he did. He did.
it's the way he does it rather than like it's that scary way he walks. I must have rewatched it like I don't know how many times. It's the way he drops his hands and he allows him to throw a couple of shots just to really fucking put fear into him, like to show him you can't hurt me either.
But in that shot, like in that first in that clip where he puts him down first, that's how he should be boxing. Like that snap of the jab and right hand was literally perfect.
Mm.
Like it was so quick and accurate. And with that power, if he did that on a consistent level, you really couldn't. It would be very difficult to beat. If that bloke had technique, he could have possibly gone down as
Yeah.
the most dangerous heavyweight ever by a mile.
Here's a question for you while we're talking about knockouts. What is the worst knockout you've ever seen that comes to mind in boxing? I don't know. I don't think
What
I've ever asked you that before.
the worst knockout?
By worst, I mean like where you're watching going, oh my god, this guy is fucked up.
I tell you what, a recent one actually was Povetkin White. That was pretty.
Oh, I've
I'd
seen that.
say
Yeah,
Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have I seen? I have not fucking seen. I tell you why I asked is because one that always fucking I rewatch it every so often is I'm sure you know this is the one with Tommy Morrison got knocked out. You remember that? I can't remember who he fought,
Yeah.
but he's up.
It wasn't Ray Mercer, was it?
It could be. I'm not 100%, but I know he's up against the ropes and he's fuck. I mean, in the it's a succession of knockouts almost. He's up against the ropes, getting teed off on. His head is like the neck isn't even there. It's
Yeah.
even put it with MMA. It's up there one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen in my life. I remember because I watched the Tommy Morrison documentary a couple of years back, so I
Oh
remember
yeah,
seeing that
yeah.
knockout, and it's one I've always seen down through the years, but I didn't know it was him that got knocked out. Fuck, it was so
I think
crazy.
yeah, no. Tommy Hearns knockout on Roberto Duran is the single cleanest knockout I've seen. I think.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. It could be one. I'd probably have to rewatch it, but I don't know if I've seen it. But yeah, no, it's
No,
just that's talking about Wilder reminded me of that Tommy Morrison one, and it's fucking hell.
I tell you the closest, maybe even better. Like Wilder put Fury down in the 12th. The closest I've ever seen to that, and it may be even better, was Ernie Shavers hit Larry Holmes with a right hand. And I watched it once from the angle of from behind, like where you watch Ernie Shavers deliver the punch, and how he got up, I'll never know. Yeah, I actually watched a documentary with Larry Holmes talking about it, and he said if he hadn't hit me as hard as he hit me, he would have knocked me out. But he hit me that damn hard. I hit the ground that hard, it woke me up.
Yeah, isn't it funny that they say like they're finding that is a real thing. That's not bullshit. Like where fighters say,
Yeah.
like they're looking into it now. I don't know who's doing the study, but I heard it. I think it was on Rogan or something. I'd heard it that it's a legit thing. Like guys are getting KO'd but hitting the ground and waking up again, and some of them are finishing fights not remembering what the
Have you
fuck they're
have you
doing.
got a computer? Have you got a computer? You can look on YouTube a sec.
I have my phone.
Just look that up. Ernie Shavers, Larry Holmes, round 7.
Eventually, what I fucking want to do is, however we do the setup, is anytime we talk about a video like this, that we can get it to pop up on the screen as we do it. But I just
Yeah.
haven't figured that shit out yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, when we're
Ernie,
big time. Yeah.
we're big time, yeah. Ernie Shavers, Larry Holmes.
Should be like 55 seconds, pretty much.
It's bang on the one I just found. The video says Larry Holmes had a hell of a chin. Ay, ay, ay. He threw it from his fucking pocket too. Yeah, you can see he's there, but he's not there either.
Oh, but the recovery is
It's
unbelievable.
he's up immediately. Fuck. Oh, he caught him clean. So for anyone that was watching this, Larry Holmes versus Ernie Shavers, check it out on YouTube. Fucking hell. And it's like you can see Shavers is kind of looking, going, "What the fuck is he doing back up?" Like,
Oh, pretty much. Like he's considered the hardest puncher ever in heavyweight division.
he's back with it. He's back with it now. He's in the fight here again.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking insane.
But like, look at like it's like Fury taking over the fight after that knockdown, isn't it? Like he just completely takes control.
Yeah,
Like
and you
so,
like some of them. I think some of them as well. They go into that's your like what do they call it? Your fight or flight. Like even though you're not really with it, your body just goes into this mode where I have to survive here, and they
survive.
pull it off.
Yeah,
Like it's fucking. That takes. I don't even know what that takes, but that's just a different kind of breed that you can do all the training in the world you want, but that's something that people don't get trained. That's from fucking. I don't know what it is. Something different. That's a fight that you
it's
can't put
like
into young
because
fighters. Like
yeah, like he was Ali's sparring partner for years, and like Ali's like the brick. Some of the punches he came up against and took their biggest punches like a chat like they were nothing.
yeah,
And if you're surrounded by that, like you can't help, but you've got to pick that up a little bit.
yeah.
And no,
The,
it's I that to me is the most impressive get up of any boxing match I've seen.
it's the fact actually the way it's the KO obviously or the punch is fucking nasty. It's the fact he gets up so fucking quick. He's up immediately,
Yeah,
and like what 5 seconds later he's back in the fight.
yeah.
That has to be disheartening. I don't care like who you are or whatever record you have behind you. You do that to a fighter and they get immediately back up by the time you fucking turn around. I mean, you have to be thinking, what the fuck?
What can I
Sometimes,
do? What can I do here?
yeah, it makes you kind of when you watch these fucking. I did like a podcast last week. I haven't released it yet, but it's just one I have said it's about like movies, like fight movies, and I was talking about the Rocky movies in it, saying how they're great movies, but the only thing is when you watch real fights and you watch those movies, you're seeing the punches they take and you're like, it's not realistic. But then you see some fighters that fucking really can take that kind of punishment and they still, they're still there in the fucking fight. And like
Aye,
one of the coolest scenes ever, like I know it's a movie, but it's the first or second Rocky where Apollo Creed is beating the piss out of him and he just keeps getting up, calling him in for more. And you do see that in some fights where they're looking, going, what the fuck do I have to do to this guy to get him out of this ring? Like.
he was Shavers was actually called in to do one of the Rocky films,
Oh
and
yeah,
Sylvester Stallone like said, Rock Ernie hit me with like your hardest punch to the body, and I think he ruptured his spleen or something, and he had to be taken away because he hit too hard.
he's known for doing that, Stallone, because he has somehow I think the Russian that guy Dolph Lundgren he knocked Stallone out doing the shooting for that movie as well because he was always trying to sell it more and more. So he's saying to make it look real. You can hit me if you want. So Rocky's got a few knockouts as well, outside of the fucking
I
ring.
fuck it. Yeah, what a fucking idiot. Like, I mean, you're asking the single hardest puncher in the world to hit you with his hardest punch.
Have you ever seen the later movies, the Creed movies?
I've not really, mate. I'll give you. I've seen the first couple, but I haven't seen them all.
Yeah, no, but there's this. Tony Bellew has been in one of the Creed movies.
I heard that the other day for the first
Yeah,
time, believe it or not.
but he KO'd the actor in that because they were the same thing. He was on that show, A League of Their Own. That's probably a couple of years back, but they were talking about I can't. What's the actor's name? Fucking but anyway, he plays Apollo Creed's son in the movie. But they were doing a scene, and Tony Bellow's like supposed to make it look as real as possible, but he clips him. But he puts his lights out, like clips him fucking hard, puts the guy out cold. So like, what the fuck
And
is
that's
Stallone thinking of?
and I'm
Like,
not. And Tony Bellew wouldn't be even a tenth of the puncher that Wilder or Shavers would be.
yeah,
So, like, I mean,
it's
yeah, It's stupid.
You're
Pretty
not like
much.
you're an average person. You can't be taking that kind of fucking. It's like I saw that not that long ago. This I don't know who this guy is, but he was doing some filming with Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy Thompson from the UFC, and he asked him to like, oh, do a leg kick on me, hit me a leg kick. And so Wonderboy said he was sure. He said, oh yeah. He hit him one leg kick, and you can see the guy is in fucking agony, and that's just a leg kick. Like, but some people look at it and they go, oh, I bet I could take one of those. You can't. You know what I mean? You can't. A guy
After
that
after listening to Shannon Briggs talk about a leg kick, it's
Shannon Briggs gives the best explanation though. I love listening. That's where he talks about the two bats, isn't it?
pretty much.
Yeah.
He put me off ever wanting to get a leg kick. Well, I like when I was in Auckland, I did like 2 sessions at this Muay Thai place, and he just had me kicking a bag for the first time, and my shin, come the end of it, it felt like it wanted to snap in half. It
It's
was battered.
the end, like it's you can buy a punch bag or whatever, a kick bag, but the way they do it, when the proper Thai gyms and stuff like that, the way they have their bags, you think they poured cement in them. Like there's one back home, they at Dave Joyce's gym. Fuck, I can't think of the name of it right now. Sorry, but they had like a tape around the bag, you know, showing you that where the bag gets fucking rock solid is below that tape, And of course, you want to test yourself by kicking that, but man, your fucking shins will be in bits, like, and that's all part and parcel of the sport to try and harden up your shins. That's the whole idea, is to actually deaden the nerves in your shin. That's what you're trying to do over time. Is you're trying to kick,
Yeah,
so eventually you don't feel, because you're going to be fucking kicking shin to shin, like. But I mean,
yeah, different breed. Those Thai fuckers. There was a lad there, and I was watching his kicks, like just kind of mesmerized. It was like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan had a love child or something. It was fucking ridiculous.
the
He was kick. Oh,
sorry,
it
go
was
on.
unbelievable. It was just I was just watching him kicking this bag. Like it was almost like art. It
Yeah,
was unbelievable.
it's the spring that, like, the thing. I don't know. It's just from throwing it for years as kids. Like the spring they have in their kicks, they just fly up, like, you know, like my older brother done it for years. Like, and I even watch. Like, I have a reasonable kick on a bag, as in I can throw reasonable power, but I don't have that spring. Like, I gotta really throw into it. But you see, like, I've seen it when I watch my brother do it, or some of the guys in the gym, and it's just effortless. They do it like,
Yeah,
the best way to put it is they throw it like they throw their hands. They have legs just like their hands. It's the only way to really put it. Like, it's just effortless. Like, and that's just from years of doing it. Like, if you watch Damien Trainer, he's a guy you see, he puts up a lot of tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool bag drills and things like that. And like, the bag he's using is 3 times the size of a fucking regular punch bag, and it's just packed out, and he's drilling it with kicks, but effortlessly. It's just real cool to watch. But it's oh, there, man, like the thought. I put up a video, actually. I think it was last week I think it was on my own page, of this guy that came into the Ultimate Fighter. He was training under. Me and you may have spoke about this. He came in to help out George St. Pierre when George was coaching on the Ultimate Fighter. And this guy is
right.
his name is, fuck, he's a French guy. Oh, of course, I can't think of his name, but he's a Muay Thai, like, practitioner. He's done it for years, fought in some of the big Muay Thai tournaments, and he came in just to train some of the stand up with George St. Pierre's team. But the guy doesn't really sleep. He smokes before training. He'll have a jug of vodka. This is his. But like, he went in there with these, guys who were, seasoned MMA guys, and he was beating the fucking piss out of them, just because he'd been years of throwing, leg kicks, and he was just able to touch them and their leg would go dead. And they said, the guys were saying they couldn't believe it. They could smell the vodka off him, and he was just beating the piss out of them. So it was fucking so annoying, because they felt like he should not be able to do this. And he's just a real funny
I,
character. Like,
there was I can't remember anything who it was, or it was a good while on Rogan ago. It was in America. I
just
think it was.
sorry, just not to interrupt you, John Charles Starbowski. That's his name. That's, yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, we've never spoke about him anyway. So I
Oh,
mean, there was a story about there was a fella who he never fought or anything. But I think it was wrestling, or it was literally a couple types of martial art, but I'm pretty sure it's wrestling anyway. This fella never fought ever, barely, didn't even really train. It was down to farmer strength, and this fella would come into the gym and batter these like very like these decent skilled, well, these highly skilled fighters in like wrestling just for his farmer strength. And they would, in the end, they had to refuse to, they couldn't let him do it anymore because he was disheartening all like the people that were training because they've got this fella coming in who doesn't even really train and he's battering everybody.
Do you know who you could be talking about? I know, that it could be. There was a guy again on the Ultimate Fighter. His name was Matt Hamill. He was deaf. He was the first
Right.
deaf fighter to ever be in the UFC. But obviously, before he got in the UFC, he appeared on the Ultimate Fighter, and he was on the season with Michael Bisping. Now, he had that like farmer strength. Now he did have wrestling behind him, but of course, because he was deaf, people put it down to, because he trained mostly with the Special Olympic teams and stuff like that. And he was during the Ultimate Fighter, he was also on trials for the actual Olympic team. Beat the piss out of everyone. Like the wrestling was just they couldn't deal with him, and they got so pissed off because obviously his communication wasn't great because he was deaf. So there was a little bit of a language barrier, if you want to call it that. But Michael Bisping in particular, really like they clashed so bad because the guy would, when they were trying to take him down, he would put his hands behind his back and say, because he said he wanted to test himself. So he put his hands behind his back and only use his legs to stay up. And they couldn't take him down.
You're joking.
And it worked just insane. Like, but by the end of the season, and actually in Michael Bisping's book, like say throughout the season, the guy eventually got injured because of a concussion or something, so he had to pull out of the competition. But him and Bisping went on to fight in the actual UFC. And to this day, Michael Bisping said in his book the toughest fight he's ever had is with this guy. And he's actually officially or unofficially the only loss John Jones has ever had. But it's the one where Jones got disqualified throwing an elbow. So he still can put that down if he wants.
Wow.
But an insane, especially for a guy, if you would imagine a guy who's deaf trying to fucking be taught by guys like Tito Ortiz, who none of them are trained to do sign language. So he's having to learn all his own way. But an insane, like, to be fair, didn't really have anything else but this robot farmer punch, but he had insane wrestling, like, for a deaf guy, and who went on to do quite well. Didn't have an insanely good career, but for a guy who was fucking deaf, got to the UFC, fought John Jones, fought Michael Bisping, fought all these guys, but had that, just to go with your point, had that insane farmer strength. And one of the stories, actually, like when he was able to kind of talk to some of the guys on the show, he explained the story that back in his, I don't know where he came from, back in his hometown, one of the things they used to do as a game was wrestle bulls. They grabbed them by the horns, and the first one to turn the bull over won. Like, so imagine the kind of strength that fucker had. Like,
well, if you go from a bull to a person, like the strength it's no wonder, really, isn't it?
It's insane.
It's actually going back to Ernie Shavers, him and George Foreman, who are probably arguably the two hardest punchers ever in heavyweight history, both did the same thing. They did one thing, and it was chopping down trees with an axe. They put that down, their power down to chopping down trees with an axe.
Fuck yeah. Makes total sense.
He said, don't worry about any of this weights, just get an axe and go and chop down a few trees. And that's it.
Like I watch, I was only saying to my partner earlier, like I'm watching a lot of videos kind of studying the like PT and training methods and all that kind of shit. And like there's you see a lot of these videos on YouTube of guys, teaching these fancy ways of training and, holding plates and all these, but like really, it's very simple. It is very simple. If you want to train a certain way, you work a certain muscle. Like instead of trying to look fancy, like running is always a great thing. Like I'm a person who fucking despises running. I hate it. Never liked it. Unless it's after a football, I have no interest in it. But I've started doing it recently, just because I think it's something really you should be able to do. Like if you can go and
Yeah.
bench this or bench that, but you can't run, it's not really a good thing. You should be able to run.
No.
No, not say run fucking a marathon tomorrow, like, but you know what I mean. You should be able to run a little bit without dying. Even like, because it's funny, I know you're someone who runs a lot, but if you spend a little while not running and then you start running, not only are you tired, your fucking legs are sore, your muscles are very
Oh,
sore.
battered.
So there's a lot of like those simple things that people like to ignore to do all these fancier sides of training. You got to work each particular muscle. Not really. Just do the fucking your bench press, your squats. They're always going to be great workouts, and fucking running
Well,
is always a good thing.
I was gonna say I've gone back to the gym and that's all I do. I do bench, deadlift, squat, power clean, dips, and bent over row. And that's literally
Yeah.
I just do it twice a week as strength. It's more just to get stronger. I don't really want to get bigger purely because if I get bigger, I won't be able to run so far.
Yeah.
And I would run like, well, 25 kilometers a week, something like that. I don't know.
It's fucking
On
good
average.
going though. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause,
So
like, it's not to say it's something you're always going to need, but I mean, it's good to be able to fucking run. You know, it's really, like, again, if you can go and squat or whatever sort of fucking weight, it's a great thing to have. But if you can't run, you know, it's not really.
yeah, no, I've got to admit, since I've been back doing though, like leg train, I've running has become easier. I really had on my knees feel far stronger for because like I did start to feel a little bit of tweaking the old knees, but since I've been back doing a bit of like squatting, like controlled, like heavy squatting, my actual running's got far better. Like I
I'm,
did, like I was like, what are you running at the minute?
I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing is I'm using it as, like, you know, like an active recovery. So I will do.
Yeah,
I've set out my plans for. I'm doing it month by month. Now I've only started a month because I've gotten cleared to do proper training with my shoulder. So I've set out my actual weight days. Now I'm doing mostly weight training because I want to strengthen up. So let's say on Monday I will do weights, and it's a full body weight session. So I'll work a bit the shoulders, work a bit the chest, whatever. Then Tuesday I'll do running. But what I'm doing is, I'm sure if you heard of the Couch to 5K, it's an app.
nope,
You know, basically it's interval running. So
yeah,
you say whatever 3/4 pace for 5 minutes. You'll slowly jog for two, that kind of thing. So that's all I'm doing. But it's 30 minutes.
right,
Yeah. So it's
yeah,
nothing. It's not, because to be honest, I can't run for that long just yet. I'm trying to rebuild it back up again. And not
oh,
only that,
yeah,
my issue is it drives me crazy. I don't like running, but that's why I want to do it, because I want to be
mm.
able to I want to be able to run 30 minutes to 45 minutes without fucking, oh, this is boring.
Give it if you keep at it, give it a month. I think you start to like it. Like I hated it, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be without it now. And I would do a 5K back. I think my first one I ever did, it took me like 35 minutes,
Yeah.
a 5K, and now I'm down to 20 minutes 59.
Yeah. Which is fucking some drop, like.
Like 15 minutes we're talking near enough. Or
Yeah. But
14 minutes.
what I find it does is, you know, with the weights and all that is great, like, but you know, when you get that, you know, that frustration, that anger where you want to get that last lift, but running, it's a real mental game. That's why I've started to kind of like it. I'm doing it, what, 3-4 weeks now, so it's not that long, but I've kind of got at the stage where I'm almost like, you're having that fight with yourself. Oh, you want to stop, but you're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to hit the 5 minutes, then I get my jog, and then, you know, it's a mental game, and it does, like you said, it becomes enjoyable. It's horrible, but it becomes kind of an enjoyable horror, if that
Oh,
makes sense.
but honestly, the first 7 I hate it. The first
Yeah,
7 kilometers, I hate it. It's when I'm going, but when I'm heading home, then I start to get my second wind, and I'm like, right, I could go for a bit longer here, but I don't really. The longest I've ever done is 14 kilometers,
yeah,
and I don't, and I need to. I'd like to do a half marathon in the next month or so, but I, yeah, I don't. After an hour, I get a bit not bored, but I just like I go like my aim is to go as quick as possible for that hour and as
yeah.
far as possible. I don't see the point in just like having a gentle jog. I try and I
You try and
normally
push
my
yourself.
average yeah, like my average kilometer is around 4 minutes 20 a kilometer. So like I try and keep it that.
Yeah, yeah.
I try and
But
keep it like
that's a good way to be, because then that's you're then pushing yourself a little bit more all the time, like, which is good. Eventually, I'd like to get to that. For now, I'm just trying to get through. One thing I fucking find, man, is I have awful problems with my calves cramping up. I've always had it. I know
mm,
it's a simple thing of stretching more and stuff like that. I don't know, is it down to playing football? But fuck me, it happens. Like only last week or the week before again, just finishing on a run, and it completely, like, it does. There's no build up to it. The calf just completely seizes, and it's like fuck. But again, it's
yeah.
I don't run often enough, so it's shocking my body, like, and it'll get there eventually. But it is, no, I can see why people do enjoy it. It does something for your head, the running as well.
Oh, mate, 100%. Definitely. I wouldn't be without it. Like, if I go 4 days without a run, I can genuinely feel it in myself. Like,
Yeah, my
I
my
need to
my
get out and,
my favorite running partner is fucking. I put on David Goggins on the headphones. And like,
hi.
if ever I mean, if ever there's a guy to make you feel like a pussy when you're like you want to give up, it's David Goggins. He's screaming in your
Hi.
ear. You feel like he's there with you, and he's just calling you a fucking pussy, and you're like, okay, I'll keep going.
There's, mate, there's a boxing round I listened to. So wherever I'm getting to, I've got it there on standby if I'm ever struggling. And if I am, I'll just flick it on. And it gives second wind every time.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it just because I've watched it that many times, I can just see. I don't even have to look. I can just see it whilst I'm
yeah,
listening to it,
yeah, yeah.
and it just, yeah. I listened to that a couple of times, and then back to my music or whatever I'm listening to, and like
Isn't it
that's my
funny
next
how,
eight
how
kilometers.
everyone has that kind of thing? Like, I have certain clips. I've played it. I have heaps of them. Like, but there's always those certain things you listen to. And you're like, fuck, okay, I'll go to the gym or whatever it may be. Like, that's. I think me and you spoke. I think we spoke about this before. That's what David Goggins refers to as the cookie jar. He said everyone
Yeah,
should have, yeah, everyone should have the cookie jar. He said
okay.
he does it as like, people who've doubted him in the past. So he said when he's training and he's feeling like shit and he wants to give up, he said I'll pull something from the cookie jar about some motherfucker that was talking bad or whatever it may be, and so that's what gets him through the workouts. It's brilliant. Like, I fucking love it.
Goggin Goggins is a maniac. Like who runs 200 miles without stopping
He's a
or something
different breed,
stupid like
different fucking
yeah,
breed. Like, he weekly runs 100 miles, but that's as his. When I say that's his, like, borderline. That's what he has to do every fucking week, is 100 fucking miles, which is insane.
yeah.
He
Like
talked about, again, I don't know if me and you spoke about this before. I tend to repeat myself, but he was on. There's a guy called Cameron Haynes. He's a hunter. He's been on Joe Rogan a few times. He's another.
yeah, I know who he
Yeah,
is.
you
I
you
know who he
would have
is.
heard of him, man. He's another ultra runner. Does all these things, but him and Cameron Haynes and David Goggins got together to go for a run and stuff like that one time, and they were saying, Rogan was saying, like, how he's worried that one of them was going to die. He said because one is going to want to push the other, and the other is going to push back. He said they'll keep pushing till someone dies. But he said he had Cameron Haynes on the podcast after, he had his weekend with David Goggins, and he was explaining. He's like, yeah, man. He said we went training. He said, but he said this guy really has this other person, because you always hear David Goggins talking about he has this level that he calls Goggins. Is when he goes into Goggins mode. And so Cameron Haynes was
Mm,
explaining how he said this is a real mode. He said we were lifting. He said we were going through like an hour and a half of a session. He said when it got super hard, he said when we got super heavy, he said he started screaming, talking to himself. He said, and that's when he went into Goggins mode. And Cameron Haynes swears that he started to lift better, he started to lift more, he started to lift faster. His technique, he said he started shouting at himself. He said all of a sudden everything lifted. And he said now he realized and he said he got into a mode to where he was pumped. He said he wasn't even talking to Cameron Haynes anymore. He was just pumping himself up, looking in the mirror, all these kind of fucking daft shit. He is a different breed, like, he's a different type of human.
I tell you, the only person I think is even more nuts is Alex Honnold, that free climber.
I
Have
don't
you ever
actually
watched
know.
him?
No.
You should watch him. Just go. Have you ever seen? his free. I don't know how fucking high it was. There was something daft like 3,100 feet. This mountain that he climbed free like solo.
Alex.
Honnold, I think it is. Honn.
Oh yeah. Honnold. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll say that
Honnold.
name.
Whatever,
Honnold,
however you
whatever.
pronounce. You should just watch not even his clips on Rogan, but just what he's done, mate. The stuff that bloke has climbed it's not even it's not even funny. It really he is the most different breed. I think he is. Like with Goggins, he's running ridiculous lengths, but if he really needs to stop, he can. If you're hung up there, you have no option but you've got to get to the top or you're
You've got to
dead.
keep going. Yeah, that's fucking true.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
to
I've
me,
seen, like,
he is the
I
most.
haven't looked into any of those fucking free climbers, but I've seen, some of the clips on YouTube, and the shit, like, it's just, for me, that again is another level. Like, why? I'd be like, why the fuck would you do that? I get it, they like it, but it's fucking insanity. It is
It's
crazy what they do.
it, there's this one thing he climbs, and the sweat coming off me watching it. Like
Yeah.
it was. He's the most. When you listen to him on podcast, he's the most calm guy in the world, and he says anything on the ground to me isn't a worry because, like, up there is something I've actually got to be a little bit concerned about, but on the
Yeah,
ground, what's there to worry about?
that's
And I
true.
thought it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, he's and
Like
he
that's why he's so fucking calm.
100%. Apparently, that's one quite a thing about free climbers is that in life they're all the most chilled out people, and it's probably just as well because if you're in a sticky situation and you have to stay calm, or it's like you're fucked.
Like, I mean, that's a bit like, if you look at fighters, like whether it's boxers, MMA, whatever the fuck it may be. Rarely will you see them getting, now unless you have your few outliers that can't stay out of trouble, like, but rarely will you see them get into fights, and you rarely see them getting angry out in public and stuff like that, because they know what it's like to step in. They're real killers, so they don't want, they've no interest in fucking getting into these street fights and stuff like that. You see,
No,
actually, that reminds me, there was a video going around. I don't know, is it a new video or is it an old one? But Ryan Hall, who's his nickname is
UFC.
his nickname is the Wizard. He's a jiu-jitsu fucking phenom. He was in some restaurant or something. Now he's a real, like, real nerdy kind of guy. He has this kind of a weird twitch. He actually has what they call um Tourette's, but it's a, like, not where you start fucking swearing. It's a facial Tourette's where he keeps twitching. But he,
Right,
again, very calm, real nice guy. But he's some fucking dickhead screaming in his face some night out in a pub or in a bar, like, and he's trying to get the guy to calm down, but he just fucking double legs him, lands this guy on his fucking head, and just sits on him. And, like, people are talking to him, telling him, "No, don't hit him." And he's like, "I'm not going to touch him." He's literally putting his hands up like this. "I'm not going to touch him." And he's just sitting on the guy while the guy is doing his best to get up, and he can't do a thing. But to your point, like, all of those outliers, those fucking crazy rock climbers, David Goggins, these fighters, they are all mostly pretty calm, cool, collected people, like,
yeah, right, yeah. You
like
have to
fuck,
be like
like your that John Danaher was fucking class to listen to. Like, I'm sure you enjoyed every bit of that podcast.
he's very good. Like smart fella. Where's he?
Insane.
Where's he from? Is he
He,
Aussie?
he's actually Kiwi originally, but he
He's
spent
Kiwi,
yeah spent most of his life in America, I think.
right? Because I was
But
gonna say I couldn't work out if I knew he was something like that, but I
the
couldn't.
the
I just
accent
couldn't.
is the accent is hard to pick up on. Sometimes you're kind of like, what accent is that? Like, you don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, no, very good. Interesting fella. Like
Or
it
like
was a long
he
podcast,
yeah, no,
but
I can't,
it was
like, the reason I kind of haven't listened to it is because I know when I fucking start, I'm gonna want to listen to every bit of it. He's like, I cannot speak enough about that guy because his whole character is so cool. And if you hear his team, the last few weeks, some of his, like, his this week, Alex Volkanovski, and I think,
Volkanovski.
yeah, and
Yeah, I
one of
listened to.
that guy that's with Volkanovski, Greg Jones, is it? He's one of Danaher's.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you had, is it Gary Tonin? Not Gary Tonin. Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan was on the week before that. Now, Gordon Ryan is now like pretty much everyone agrees the greatest grappler to have ever lived. He's like 39-0, never lost a match, beating guys with fucking ease, just a phenom. But he's one of John Danaher's guys. But some of his things he's doing, he's even predicting before the fights. Like jiu-jitsu, unfortunately, it's just not made. Some of these guys don't make enough money. But this Gordon Ryan is doing his best to pump it up. So he's shit talking as best he can. He's stirring up trouble. Like, he's predicting how he wins his fights. But anyway, the guys that are training under Danaher, like they're known as the Danaher Death Squad. And like some of they're just this insane crew that it's such a long story, like, but jiu-jitsu itself, like a lot of the Brazilians were like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu obviously comes from Brazil. That's where all the best guys come from. But they've ignored leg locks for a long time. They've ignored it because they thought it should have been illegal because it's, you know, fucking up your limbs and stuff like that. But then you have Hickson Gray, I think it was Hickson Gray, or no, Danaher actually explained it on the first time he was on Rogan. He said that also the reason a lot of the top Brazilians have ignored leg locks is because they do it in stages. So they look at like your legs or the lower part of your body. So they get past your legs, they look for position, then they look for your arms to submit you. If they feel like they go for your legs, it's like a cheap cheat code. It's like a shortcut, like a lazy way out. Where he felt that, like Danaher's team felt that, like, if you ignore that, you're ignoring 50% of the body. He had learned that it was some fucking grappler had said that to John Danaher. The names, every time I get on a podcast, the names elude me. But I know this guy, I just can't think of the name. But anyway, this guy said to John Danaher about leg locks. You know, why would you ignore 50% of the body? And from there, it was born. He created the Danaher Death Squad, and they've become this fucking lethal at leg locks, just fucking leg locking everybody, and their entire game is insane. But I'm sure you've heard of it.
Gordon Ryan, is he a guy? I have heard a bit about him recently. He's in one FC, isn't? Oh, is it one championship?
He's in one championship. He's not doing MMA. He's just doing, because one championship do a bit of everything. Or is that right? Or else Gary Tonin is definitely in one championship. I'm not 100% about Gordon Ryan. Gary Tonin is one.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah, he could be.
I'm pretty sure,
because I know but he's just in the jiu-jitsu world. He's not in the MMA yet. He's looking at going into it. He's actually semi-retired now at the moment. He's having an issue with something to do with his stomach. He's got this weird thing. Every time he eats, he's nauseous. It's a thing he's had for years, and he only said it on Rogan there 2 weeks ago. And since he's decided to just kind of semi-retire to get it sorted, it's a weird complaint he has, like, because apparently he eats super clean, like, you know, doesn't eat any heavy meats, but even if he eats real life, he's always constantly nauseous, which is a weird thing to have. I've never heard of anything like that, but hopefully he gets it sorted. But he's a phenom. All like that whole there's an insane picture going around. Like, I know you're a Faraz Sahabi fan, but there's a really cool picture going around with George St. Pierre, and it shows his corner team behind him, and he's got John Danaher, Faraz Sahabi, Phil Nurse, who's an insane.
And Freddie Roach.
He had Freddie Roach, but he wasn't in his corner, but he was part of his team. So in this picture you have as John Danaher, Faraz Sahabi, Greg Jackson, who's another fucking top MMA coach. Then you have Phil Nurse, and then behind that he's been training, you know, with fucking Freddie Roach. And insane. Like, I've always said, if ever I could be a fly on the wall to watch a training session, I would have been watching all those guys working together. Would have been fucking insane. Just some of the best minds in the game. Like, now, while we're babbling on, because I realize we've been talking for ages, let's get on to the Paul brothers. I know you want to talk.
No.
I know you want to talk about them.
No, I don't.
What do you think about the announcement of Jake Paul and Woodley?
There's a big step up, actually, but I don't know. What do you think?
I tell you what, I said it on my podcast last week, actually. No, I didn't. I shared it on the Instagram page. If Jake Paul beats Tyron Woodley, I'm going to buy Jake Paul merch and I'm going to wear it on the podcast. whether it's a T-shirt or a hat or something. If he beats Tyron Woodley, I'll lie about being a fan, but I will at least show my support if he beats Tyron Woodley. He's brave. I'll give him that. He's fucking ballsy to go and take. Now, Woodley is not who he used to be by any means, but Woodley is
No.
still a bad motherfucker. So I don't know what to make of it. A part of me is terrified because I'm worried that I'm going to go out and see fucking Jake Paul knock out Tyron Woodley. I really don't know.
When is this fight meant to have when's it meant to be happening?
It's towards the end of the year. I don't know if they've officially announced a date, but it is. They have put up a date, and it is towards the end of the year. But like, it's, I don't know.
Do you know what worries me a little bit is like with Jake, he's obviously got money, and he can buy in all the best. He can buy in the best coaches. He can pay the highest money for sparring partners and all that. Like he's obviously, that's what I mean. He can fund himself quite well already and bring in like the best. So
but you wonder. I agree with you completely, and that was actually my worry about this fight. But then you wonder, is he being tested properly? You know what I mean? Are the guys coming in there really trying to test Jake Paul? Because I'm sure he's well minded in that camp. Like you have the guys like especially Woodley now, he's not the champ. He's on a skid. He's hungry because Woodley has never had a major payday. This is a big payday, so you got to wonder. But it is true, like because people always talk about Jake Paul hasn't been doing it long enough, but he is going to be getting in the best of the best, teaching him how to do it properly. You know, the best guy is probably game planning.
And he's signed with Showtime as well. So he's got a bit of funding behind him as well.
Yeah, and it's
not that he needs it.
When he officially signed with Showtime, Brendan Schaub said, he goes, "I'm telling you," he said, "now that he has signed to Showtime are not going to give him any easy fights." And almost immediately, now maybe Brendan Schaub knew this was happening, but almost immediately then you hear he's fighting fucking Tyron Woodley. So it's a step up. I think it's, in my opinion, it's a little big of a step up because I don't know. But again, I said that about fucking. Well, I didn't fully say that about Ben Askren, but Woodley has got monstrous power. I don't want to do this, but I'm putting my fucking balls on the line for Tyron Woodley. I will wear Jake Paul merch if Jake Paul beats him.
No, I'm surprised they're putting him in with, like, who would you have put him in if you was looking after him?
That's a good question. I'd have done. Honestly, you can't really do any more YouTubers because he's already fought Ben Askren.
Yeah, you can't. No, that's what I mean. It would have to have been someone.
You could have done like a. I've heard people say Mike Perry. I still think Mike Perry is a bit too much. You could have done maybe Diego Sanchez, but again, it might be around that level I would have gone. But to be honest, there's not a lot of easy options for him without looking like he's going a step back. That's the problem with that. And that's what I said. That is the problem with beating Ben Askren, is now you got to up your level again. You can't take a step back. You can't go YouTuber or some other form of fucking basketball or whatever you want to do. And I mean,
because if he beats Woodley, I can actually see him fighting someone like Anderson Silva maybe after.
I think Silva was floated. No, Silva was floated around with fighting De La Hoya, I think, something like that.
No, it was it's Chavez Jr.
That's what it is. Sorry, yeah. I knew there was some name out there. Yeah, like but some of these fights, I don't even want to see them. Like I don't really want to see that one, the Anderson Silva one. You know, it doesn't do much for me. But look, go get your fucking money if you're getting paid. Like the good thing about this, the Jake Paul fight is Woodley will get a nice big payday. And worst case scenario, like I mean, I don't think Jake Paul is going to knock him out. But who the fuck knows?
No. But like he'd have to do it within 2 rounds, I think.
Yeah.
What's Woodley's chin like now? Because he's lost like 4 on the bounce, hasn't he? So
he has, but he hasn't been like, it's not been like heavy KOs or anything like that.
It's been like wrestling, isn't it? More than
like he lost to the big issue with Woodley, the worry that people have is he hasn't been pulling the trigger in his fights. He's been tentative for some reason. Like Usman pretty much wrestle raped him for 5 rounds. I can't remember who the fuck he fought after that, but in his last fight, he fought Vicente Luque, which he looked again a little tentative, but then he exploded towards the end of the fight, but just got clipped as he exploded and not completely knocked out, but he got TKO'd. He got the ref stopped it. So I wouldn't say he's chinny by any means. The issue is whether he's gonna. But I honestly think the problem is he has been gun shy in his fights in the UFC because of knowing what can be done to him with the wrestling and stuff like that. I don't see him fearing Jake Paul. Like, I mean, I don't. I know Jake Paul KO. Sorry.
If there's no, if there's no wrestling, no grappling of any, if it's just pure boxing, then and he should probably beat him.
Like, Woodley is not an amazing boxer, but he is far better than Ben Askren. He's got a right hand like a fucking stick of dynamite. Like, he's flatlining people with it. Like, so interesting to see. But I hope Jake Paul is training, but because he's heading down a fucking route now that if he's not, he's going to be found out. Like, he saw that there's been shit. This guy, you might know, that Jay Leon Love, that guy that's been. He's a boxer. He's an up and coming boxer. He's been in the corner of Jake Paul and doing a lot of fucking shit talking. Like, he was a real arrogant fucker the night of the Ben Askren fight. He was kind of in Tyron Woodley's face, like trying to, the way in boxing you have to have the opposing corner, someone come in to see how the gloves are being done. Woodley was doing that. This fucking Jay Leon Love guy was just in Woodley's ear, like telling him, kind of trying to stir him up, like. And Woodley said to him, he said, "Listen, man," he said, I don't play those games. So I don't play games. Like, and the difference is, like, this is out in the street. Like, Woodley would rip that whole room apart if it came down to it. It's different when you're talking about boxing, of course, but I just didn't like that guy's attitude. But now he's been calling out people, and Eddie Alvarez has been having some words over back. Eddie Alvarez put up a great post earlier. He said, "Look, we can all talk over and back," he said, "but we'll fight in a cage, a ring, or a mat." He said, "If you lock 10 boxers into a cage with 10 MMA fighters, who lives and who dies? Stick your fucking," he said, "stick your gloves and your shoes up your fucking ass." Shit, I love, like. But it's at the same,
it'd be a massacre.
Oh, it would, but I mean, at the same time, MMA, like, it's a double-edged sword, or pick your poison, whatever way you want to put it, because it's almost boxing versus MMA, but yet all the MMA fighters still want to take these fights, They still do want to take
them. But it's only about money, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all about the big.
That's all it is. Yeah, but it's sad, really, because, like, at least in UFC, like, everybody fights everybody. Like, it really should be. I reckon maybe in 10 years. Do you think because Dana White is like the only boss, that's the reason why they're not getting paid? Like, you look at, like, in boxing, you got Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum. There's so much more.
I think it plays a part, yeah, because there's nobody, like Dana White makes all the decisions. There's no one to challenge. What it needs is, it's never going to be a case like boxing, because what's going to happen after Dana White, in my opinion, is you're going to see an ex-fighter take over, like a Daniel Cormier or something like that. That's my opinion. I don't know for sure, but that's what I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the way they should go. Hopefully, with an ex-fighter taking over, they might try and do a union or something.
McGregor?
I think McGregor is a bit too quick, but McGregor might, though. Like, I mean, he's a businessman at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look.
Imagine him promoting it.
It's easy. Picture McGregor doing that shit, like, isn't it? Like, if you pictured, let's say, I don't know, will Dana White ever, like, I don't know when he's going to step away, because, I mean, you think by now he'd be slowing down, but he seems to fucking love it as much as ever. And he says himself that he loves it as much as ever. But imagine in 10, let's say even 20 years, Dana White decides he's going to step aside, but he'll be in the ear of McGregor, like, be telling McGregor, helping him out in the
shadowing
background.
Him. Yeah.
Shadowing him.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking might be pretty cool, like, you know what I mean?
I can see it. I can actually see that.
Like, McGregor,
the king of the UFC.
Yeah, exactly. And you imagine McGregor, exactly. Imagine him on the mic selling a fight between two guys. He'd be fucking excellent. To be honest,
yeah,
he'd be like a better version of fucking Don King,
Yeah, well, Don King's a cunt. So
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't
in the
fucking.
terms of Don King was a great speaker. Like that's what I mean.
He
Like,
was.
he
Yeah,
could
yeah,
speak well,
yeah.
but other than that, he was a fucking dickhead, obviously. Like, but
Yeah.
it will be interesting to see. But yeah, no, to answer your question, it is. There's no one to challenge
And,
Dana White. Like,
and like McGregor's business, like you say, he's business smart. Like you could say someone like Tyson Fury could do it, but I don't think he would be anywhere near as sharp business wise as McGregor. McGregor would know exactly what his fighters were worth, how, and I think he'd pay them quite well. I think he'd actually be quite.
yeah, I
I
could
think he
see.
might be the one to. I think he might be the one to take it to that not quite boxing level of money, but definitely increase it.
Yeah, like realistically, if you think I'd never thought of that before, but if you think of anyone, I was looking at the kind of good guys like the DCs and all that. But realistically, if you look at a fucking McGregor, you'd be surprised what that cunt could do with MMA.
Yeah.
It's true. Like
Uh,
I never thought of that, but like picture that man leading a promotion. It's fucking. It's actually exciting enough to think of that.
I tell you what, if Dana White, if in 20 years Dana White, I'm just going to be convinced he's listened to this and he's nicked this idea because we're going to need a bit of commission on this
Just a
because
little
I
bit on the
mean,
side. Like we're not looking for much. Just a fucking
100 grand each or something
take
like that.
100 grand and be fucking selling a couple of backstage passes to the UFC. Happy as fuck. We do our
I'll
live
take that.
breakdowns, the fights. Man, I tell you what though, that would be fucking fun to see. That's not a bad call. I never thought of that, but I'll pretend that
I
I
just
did.
see him. I just see him at that fucking podium, like talking absolute shite and
Yeah,
fucking probably offering to fight the winner as well.
walking out in his fucking ridiculous flashy suits, like as an old man. You can picture it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
fuck,
really can.
that'd be fucking interesting shit. Ian, shall we leave it at that? Seeing as I've kept you for long
Mate,
enough.
no worries, mate. I got oh fuck, it's 10 o'clock, like
Yeah,
no worries.
we've gone on for pretty long. I don't know how your schedule is today. I don't want to keep you too long, but is
No, that's all right, mate. I literally yeah, sounds good.
there's nothing
Anyway, it's
there's
been
nothing else we've left out that you were thinking of, Ratton. I'm sure you don't want to talk about
no, I
Logan
think
Paul.
no, fucking no. Not even don't you dare talk about that cunt.
I tell you what, I have actually no interest in talking about it either. No interest, so we won't. But
No.
no, as always, it's been fun talking, and I look
Yeah,
forward to the
always.
fight. We'll hopefully chat next week because Logan Paul is this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm not pumped for it at all, but I'll have a look at it. Like
Yeah,
we'll
well,
watch
I
it.
won't
Sure,
be
we'll.
watching. Yeah, I will watch a clip of it. I'll watch Floyd knocking him out or something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah, I can tell you, like I'm not going to watch the event. I don't think I'll probably try and depending on what fights I'm at with the. I have a ton of MMA to watch this weekend. There's some good cards in Ireland, actually in Belfast this weekend. So I'm
Is
going to try
there?
and watch. Yeah, Clan Wars. I'm
All
actually
right.
I'm going to be interviewing one of the fighters. I'm just in discussion with him now. Hopefully Friday night, just after the poor bastard weighs in. So I'm hopefully going to talk to him then. Yeah, a lot of amateurs and some guys making their pro debuts, but some good fights, big long fight card. So
Aye, happy days, mate.
yeah, I'll try and share some. I don't know where you get the pay per view. I need to find that out, but I'll try and share some links if you're interested in getting it. But that's my plan anyway. If I can get a look at the Mayweather fight and Logan Paul, I will. But truth is, I do not give a fuck about it, man.
No. Look, mate, have a good one.
You too.
Good
Listen, take it
speaking.
easy, and we'll hopefully speak again next week.